Breaking news. Trump tells reporters on Air Force One networks are not allowed to criticize Trump. That's right. Donald Trump has gone on live record with reporters saying that networks that criticize him will be punished for their criticisms. This is a major bombshell blow. Free speech. The fact is, he's a public figure that is subject to ridicule based on the First Amendment rights. If we are going to attack the First Amendment, yet leave the Second Amendment alone so that children can be unalived at schools, where are we in this world? Because this administration is now not only stripping the credentials of reporters that ask questions that they don't want to answer, but now on Air Force will actually travel across the country in taxpayer dollars, is now telling reporters on that same Air Force One that any network that criticizes him will face punishment. How does that seem justified? Do you still feel free?
Breaking news. Donald Trump just said on Air Force One that media organizations cannot criticize him. What? That yes, media organizations cannot criticize him. They cannot say anything about him he doesn't like, in effect. They don't have the First Amendment right. And he basically says that since they're licensed, the FCC, that gives him as president the right to dictate what they can say. Donald Trump, I don't know what country you think you're in, but you're not in that country. The United States is not a dictatorship controlled by you at this point. It is still a democracy. We have a constitution. And under our constitution, under the First Amendment, we have a right to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. You cannot take that away because you don't like people criticizing you. Then perhaps you shouldn't do things to be criticized about, and I bet they won't criticize you. It's amazing how that works. So, you don't have the right that you think you do, and because you've done this right now with Jimmy Kimmel, not going to work. Not going to work. Stephen Colbert, not going to work. The American people won't stand for this. Those that are MAGAs, with those burned out light bulbs, they may not be able to see what's going on, but the rest of us do. And by the way, there will be an election next week in Arizona 7 congressional district, and that's going to give us a 218th signature to bring the Epstein files to be released on the floor of the House of Representatives. See how that works. And we will be talking about Epstein in the future. Love you for my Democrats and my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned out light bulbs. And if you're in Arizona 7, make sure you vote for freedom, for the signature on the discharge petition for the FBI to release all the Epstein files unredacted. Period.
Well, here we go. Donald Trump is now saying that it is illegal for any TV shows to criticize him. He was just on Air Force One, returning from his trip to the UK when he said the following. As journalist Caitlin Collins just reported, Trump just told reporters, quote, "When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative one in years or something. When you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They are licensed. They are not allowed to do that." Trump is making it abundantly clear that his goal right now is to silence all the media that is critical of him, as if the United States is Russia or North Korea. This is a blatant violation of free speech rights and the First Amendment and is entirely un-American. And I want to assure you of this, the corporate media may continue to fold to Donald Trump, but we will not here at the Midas Touch Network. In fact, we just wrote a letter to Jimmy Kimmel about this entire situation. We hope you have a chance to read it. It's up on our Substack at MidasPlus.com. Go there, check it out. We will not be threatened. We will not back down.
But these networks and these newspapers are really no different than a highly paid political operative. And it has to stop. It has to be illegal. It's influencing judges, and it's really changing law, and it just cannot be legal. I don't believe it's legal. And
I mean, you've heard me say this a million times. This country is rapidly moving toward an authoritarian form of society. In authoritarian countries like Russia and others, Saudi Arabia, you do not have a media that is allowed to be critical of the government. Trump just, what was it yesterday, the day before, announced a $50 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. Today, the head of the FCC basically, I don't like what this guy said. We could take away your license. You better get rid of him. So this is just another step forward, and we have got, some of us are working really hard to rally the American people, not only against this authoritarianism, but this war against the working class, the massive tax breaks for the rich, the cuts in Medicaid. People should be aware.
I want more than anything is I want them to stop fooling around with my right to say what I feel. Right. I don't like being threatened. I don't like people running up on me. You don't like what I say. This is America. I grew up here. And the one thing I always knew is I had freedom of speech. And every time somebody says, you know, I don't like what they said, so I'm shutting down PBS. I don't like what they do. Those are broad strokes which have nothing to do with reality. Because the fact of the matter is, just because you don't hear me say it doesn't mean I don't feel it. So my big thing is all the things you talked about, but this idea that you can no longer speak your mind as an American is really, really, especially coming from a group that always says, you know what, everyone's shutting us down.
We have breaking news right now. Donald Trump just made a stunning admission saying that media organizations cannot criticize him, and if they do, they'll face punishment, essentially. A stunning bombshell admission. Speaking on Air Force One to reporters, he said, quote, "When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative one in years or something. When you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that." Donald Trump is essentially saying that media organizations and late-night television hosts are not allowed to criticize Donald Trump. Here's the deal. Of course they are. They are allowed to do that. But Donald Trump is making clear that if they criticize him, they could face the suspension of their show, like with Kimmel, or potentially the revocation of their media license as a whole. And independent media has never been so important in this moment because folks like us, we're not going to cave to the White House. We're not going to cave to Trump. So make sure to spread the word, subscribe to my Substack, support my work at the link in my bio. Follow along for more.
Media isn't allowed to criticize him, and I'm being serious. He was just quoted on Air Force One saying, quote unquote, "We have these networks and these evening shows, and all they do is hit Trump. They are licensed. They're not allowed to do that." And this is coming less than 24 hours after he pressured ABC into canceling Jimmy Kimmel's late night show because Jimmy Kimmel said something that he didn't like. Keep in mind that Jimmy Kimmel's show was running for over 20 years. This is single-handedly the largest attack on free speech from our government in my lifetime. Donald Trump doesn't want to be president and play by the rules. He wants to be an all-powerful leader and make the rules, even if it is at the sake of the American Constitution and our individual rights, liberties, and freedoms. I'd like to call upon the people of this country to speak louder than ever in dissent and opposition of the Trump administration. He said that he wants to silence you, and we cannot let that happen.
Donald Trump just threatened to shut down all media in America that basically isn't Fox News or MAGA. CNN says Trump says because he won the election and TV networks give him wholly bad publicity, he would think maybe their licenses should be taken away. He then praised the guy who got Jimmy Kimmel canceled last night. Donald Trump just gave that's the way the mafia does it, actually. They don't give the order directly. They say, it would be unfortunate if something happened to you, wouldn't it? Donald Trump just told the FCC to take away the broadcast licenses of all of the American media that isn't MAGA, that isn't Fox News, unless they give him better publicity. Folks, what country is this anymore? This isn't America. This isn't the way Americans of Democrat, liberal, Republican, conservative act. This is what you see in bad places in Europe, bad places in history. This is not what you see in America. This is wholly un-American. This is terrifying.
We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening.
Trump's now saying that news outlets aren't allowed to criticize him if they want to keep their broadcast licenses. And saying of the networks they're getting a license, I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr. But with many saying that's a tyrannical thing to even suggest, threaten, or say, and it should be taken as a declaration of war on free speech and the free press. Right, and this comes after Trump's FCC pressured to get Jimmy Kimmel's show canceled. You've even got Russians who are in exile here in America, Canada, and across Europe all giving dire warnings to Americans right now. Right, they're basically screaming to Americans that this is exactly what Putin did. He forced the comedians off the air, then he came for the news, movies, TV shows until he controlled the media, and now no one hears a negative thing about Putin. Right? And because Putin controls the media, he can basically do whatever he wants, like rig elections and disappear critics, because who's gonna know? And you're seeing more and more people saying America, the land of the free, supposedly, is under attack by Trump, who's trying to do the same thing. You know, with that, I say, listen, like, this is not about Democrats versus Republicans, or at the very least it shouldn't be, and that's how, unfortunately, a lot of people are framing it. But if he's going down this road, that's Trump using party divisions to keep us divided while he ends up chaining us both. This is about the government versus the people and our right to free speech. All while, like, if you just want a taste of how stupid and grim our situation is, there's now a gold statue of Trump on the National Mall. You know, right now I think the most effective thing you can do is tell your friends, your families, your coworkers, your neighbors, anyone who will listen about what's happening. People need to know about what looks like an attempt to strip us of our rights. Most people have no idea or don't truly understand where this is going to go. But hey, for now, while you still can, follow to stay in the loop.
There's a question about who's going to lead the team going forward and who's going to lead this enormously important organization. And I understand you have some news on that front.
Yeah, since everything has happened, I think the number one question is what is going to happen with Turning Point, what is going to happen next, and I'm pleased to be able to announce with you, and I think it's appropriate because of who you are and who this person is, that the Turning Point board has unanimously selected Erica Kirk as the new CEO and chair of the board. And not only is that amazing in and of itself, but I can assure you, Megan, that Charlie told me personally, and he told others, he probably told Mikey, that if anything ever happened to him, that this is exactly what he wanted.
Wow. I have the chills. It had to be, right? I mean, there's just, I don't think anybody would accept a leader of the organization who they didn't feel completely understood Charlie and would be 100% dedicated to fulfilling his vision for where this group is going.
Well, and let me just add one more thing, and I want Mikey to chime in here as well. But in the immediate hours afterwards, Erica got a call from somebody very important. Leave that vague, out of privacy, but she got a call from somebody very important. And the question was, what do you know? Sort of asking how much of what's going on behind the scenes and with the relationship, like, what do you know? And her reply back was, everything. I know everything.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security.
So I saw that the soybean farmers in the state of Arkansas are having a find out phase, and you know what I hate to say? I told you so. No, seriously, I'm really sick and tired of the fact that the left keeps having to say, I told you so, because we didn't want anybody to suffer, okay? We voted for everybody to survive and thrive, and you voted for the suffering of other people, and here we are. You are actually the one who is paying the price and suffering, because you can't sell your soybeans to China because what's that? Tariffs. You can't get that new farming equipment that you needed because of why? Tariffs. Didn't the experts tell you that? Didn't people warn you this would happen? But no, you let your internalized hate, racism, and misogyny override literal facts that were right there in front of your face that made you vote against your own best interests. And here you are, expecting a government bailout yet again. But you didn't want anybody else to get government bailouts. That's socialism, and you don't like that. So what makes you so different and so deserving when you voted against government money going to anybody who has stumbled upon a hard time? Why do you get it? What makes you better than other people? Again, I don't like that we are having to say, I told you so. Okay, I wanted you to do well. I wanted you to survive and thrive. But this is what you voted for.
Did you guys see that woman talking about her father getting kicked out of the nursing home? Well, apparently the nursing homes are kicking out their Medicare patients. And she was like, why would they do that? And everyone in the comments was like, honey, this is what you voted for. This is Medicare cuts. This is the big, beautiful bill. And she was like, no, that's not it. Yes, it is. I work in skilled nursing. 90% of the residents that are in there, they are Medicare patients. These buildings stay open because of Medicare. They will close down. They will not care for your aging parents and grandparents for free. They will send them home to you. You will have to quit your job and stay home and take care of them. That means you're going to have to be the caregiver for your father, your husband, your kids. You're going to have to quit your job. You're going to do all this on half the income for your household. This economy is going to suffer greatly when these places start closing down. This is one of the reasons, this is the main reason why I did not want to rely on the U.S. for my income while I'm living abroad. The economy here is bound to crash. When you cut Medicare like that and these places close, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. The dollar is going to suffer. There is no forethought with these people. They have no idea what is happening.
What's up, beautiful and amazing people? Guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about Americans' reaction towards Trump's when he came out and talked about freedom of speech, that if you are talking anything ill about him, if you have any criticism or just criticizes anything to do with him, then you're going to be cancelled out. And that's what we are going to talk about today. And this discussion started the day, I can tell you, it started the day after Jimmy Kimmel made a comment about Charlie Kirk's assassination. So, of course, the president of America sparked a widespread debate over free speech after the assassination of activist Charlie Kirk on 10th of September 25. So on the other end, Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel live show came out and criticized the politicization of Kirk's death by Trump supporters. So for him, according to him, he felt like this thing is being over politicized. Even though you are a friend to the president, then why should people talk so much about you and politicize the whole situation? Some coming out say, oh, it's a Democrat who did that. No, it's this, it's that. I mean, it was just being politicized to left, right, center. And Jimmy Kimmel called it extraordinarily vile. And he referred to the whole situation, a scenario of a kid, a 4-year child, mourning over a goldfish. And that did not come out well, especially to Brendan Carr, who is the chair of the FCC. He actually threatened a regulatory action against ABC for allowing Jimmy Kimmel talk about it, make a comment about it, because they are like, they are actually misleading the public over all these issues, which is not correct at all. What did the ABC do? They respond. They just came out and they indefinitely suspended Jimmy Kimmel's show. And on the other end, the president was very happy. He was very happy that, ABC has taken an action against Jimmy Kimmel. And he said that, what, anyone else who is criticizing me, that is referred to as a hate speech and you will be cancelled out. I don't know if that will ever happen in the America that we all know. So for the Trump or MAGA supporters, they are like, yeah, that is it. This is what we call accountability for hate speech. or biased broadcasting, according to them. So earlier this year, in the year 25, of course, a poll was conducted, and you know what? 26% of Republicans and 30% of all American supporters, they actually supported restricting untrue news or hate speech, you know. However, the Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel's situation or incident amplified tensions, you know, because there were divided opinions. The Republicans and Trump allies came out and they were like, yeah, that is it. I don't know what. On the other end, it was something different. So for Democrats and the independent Americans, they view the whole situation, the Trump's incident, when he came out and talked about it, they view it as an action on authoritarian overreach. And Republicans, on the other hand, Republicans, they view the whole situation as a justified pushback against biased media. So I don't know what you think about the Jimmy Kimmel incident, what the Democrats are saying, what the Republicans are saying, because these two groups, they are not meeting in terms of, they're not anywhere close, because not everybody actually ever supported Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk had his own fans, but there are so many. Have you seen his funeral motorcade on the road? You could actually think that it was a presidential funeral. And also the people that came out, oh my God. I didn't know Charlie Kirk had such a huge fan base, honestly speaking. I didn't know. So for Trump's allies, they actually view the whole situation as, you know, Trump trying to defend against hate speech, which incites violence in the American community. But honestly, I don't know what kindly just comment down below what you think about all this situation, because Charlie Kirk is somebody that was well known in America, but his assassination, it actually went viral that I even got to know about him. I didn't know about him so much, but anyway, after following up on what he used to go out and talking about, you know, because he could have rallies from one institution to the next, how we really talked about the blacks in America and the immigrants in America. I wasn't happy about it. Like, he didn't really care about the whole situation. He never cared anything about a black or an immigrant, about the Hispanics, about the Latinos. He never ever cared. So of course, there's those people that supported his sentiments, his opinions, and we have also those who never supported him at all. So can you imagine Trump, the president of America, supporting the FCC chair and referring to him as a great American patriot for actually threatening the ABC? He threatened them that the ABC had to cancel Jimmy Kimmel live show, a very powerful show, and that show has been there for so long. I actually started watching it after I finished high school, and I've been following up on them. And it's a platform that people discuss great things, not just like minor issues. I mean, they discuss things of importance that, you know, it helps all of us. And now I don't know what will happen next, because of course, even if they deny him a platform on ABC, he has a platform on YouTube, and Jimmy Kimmel himself is a brand. If he comes out on YouTube and, you know, has his own show, and, you know, he speaks to the people, he will have massive fans and followers and will continue listening to him. So that, I can tell you that Americans are not happy, of course, and according to the videos that we just listened, they are not happy. I mean, the America we know, you know, the developed world that we know, and now the president is coming out and saying, hey, anybody that is criticizing me, you'll be cancelled out. We thought that freedom of speech is only restricted in Africa, because in Africa, you cannot dare and rely on freedom of speech. Like, you just come out and say whatever you want to say. I mean, you have to think about the consequences Because if you actually say that, yeah, we have freedom of speech, we have to say whatever we want to say, I mean, you have to think twice as an African first, because our systems are broken. If you try say this, they come for you. And remember, the system has all the tools. It controls the military, controls the communication authority, control. So if they want to track you, within a second, they just know where you are, who you talk to. I mean, they'll just be, they'll just arrest you in a minute, and yeah, your life is not going to be good at all. You'll be suffering in the jails alone. So we just prefer to keep quiet and, play by the rule. Just live your own life. But the America that we know, people don't fear. They have the right to freedom of speech and everything. And if there is something that I'm really trying to follow up on, is to really understand the Epstein files, because it's a crazy story and information outside there. I can't wait for Trump to come out and release the files. Although I really doubt if he's going to release them, because at the end of the day, he has been mentioned there. If you watch these documentaries from the victims, Trump's name doesn't miss there, and I can't really wait to see if he will release. Of course, he can't. Who can dare, put himself in the frying pan? Nobody, right? So thank you so much if you watched this particular clip up to this point. Kindly subscribe to the channel, and I love you to the moon and back.